thought about the hidden stories, the ones behind the official version, the things that seem all wrapped up? How often do those first explanations for, well, weird stuff, how often do they change? Or maybe sometimes they even hide something deeper. Yeah, that's kind of the paradox we're getting into today. This deep dive, it's all about Dr. Donald H. Menzel. He was this incredibly famous astronomer, a really staunch UFO skeptic. But his life, well, it's this fascinating puzzle. We're going to look at his public image versus his very private, very secret life, and then connection all to some really cutting edge modern research that kind of echoes these old mysteries. It's a journey that might make you rethink what we think we know about the unexplained. So for sources, we're looking at Menzel's own books like the UFO Enigma, his bio, naturally, but also declassified FBI files from the Black Vault, research from people like Stanton Friedman, who looked into his secret life. And then we'll jump forward to Dr. Beatriz Villarroel's recent work. You might have heard about it on the Richard Dolan Show, plus some historical UFO context from places like IU Scholar Works. Our mission really is to unpack all these layers, see where historical skepticism bumps up against new science. So as you listen, maybe think about how explanations evolve or sometimes just cover things up.
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain on this guy. Donald Menzel, born 1901, Florence, Colorado. And he wasn't just interested in science. He was like a prodigy right from the start.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking chemistry lab in the basement, building his own radio transmitter as a ham radio operator.
Yeah.
And get this, an Eagle Scout specializing in cryptanalysis, code breaking, even as a kid.
Wow. Okay, so that coding interest starts early.
Very early. And it carries through. He built this massive career in astronomy, Harvard College Observatory, became director there in '52, first chair of astronomy at Harvard back in '45.
He discovered things, right? Nebulas.
Yeah, the Menzel 3 nebula, the Ant Nebula, people call it. He even has a minor planet named after him, a lunar crater, too. This wasn't just some academic. He was a giant in the field.
Led big expeditions. I read about one to the USSR.
That's right, 1936. A huge international effort observing a solar eclipse. 22 people, 7 tons of gear. Complex stuff. A real leader.
So a top-tier, world-renowned scientist, and this is the guy who becomes a major UFO debunker.
Exactly. One of the very first prominent scientists to really weigh in publicly on UFOs. And his stance was crystal clear. Skepticism. Strong skepticism.
It is fascinating, isn't it? Someone with that kind of scientific weight throwing himself into debunking. He wrote or co-wrote 3 pretty popular books, just hammering this point home. Flying Saucers Myth, Truth History came out way back in '53.
And testified before Congress.
Yep. The House Committee on Science and Astronautics, 1968, flat out said all UFO sightings had natural explanations, period.
What was his, core argument?
Well, he and Ernest Taves put it pretty bluntly in the UFO Enigma. They said, look, weird stuff in the sky has scared people forever. And when people don't understand something, they invent explanations. So for them, UFOs were mostly just misidentifications.
Misidentifying what, though? Stars? Clouds?
Exactly. Stars, clouds, planes, weird weather effects, or, just hoaxes. Prosaic phenomena, as he called it.
Okay, so it sounds like he had a neat box for everything. Did he have a standard way of tackling specific cases? Especially the really baffling ones. Oh yeah, he had a system. He'd break down cases, try to fit them into those categories, natural phenomena or hoaxes. Like take that 1965 sighting, Case 52 in the Condon Report, supposedly unexplained. Menzel and Taves just said, most likely a hoax. They pointed to things like radio problems happening before the sighting, the Air Force calling it a photo hoax, inconsistencies.
So it's picking apart the details.
Precisely.
Really?
Or he'd lean heavily on atmospheric optics. Weird light effects. That story about a pilot chasing a UFO near Salt Lake City, it just vanished at incredible speed.
Yeah.
Menzel's explanation, the pilot just flew out of a cloud of ice crystals, reflecting light in a strange way.
Okay, ice crystals.
And he also really hammered on observer psychology. He argued people misinterpret things, especially startling things. They try to make it familiar. He used the Zond 5e fireball example, saying observers imagine seeing windows or portholes on it, even though they weren't there.
So it wasn't just physics, it was psychology too. And he wasn't afraid to call people out for being, gullible, or even faking it.
Oh, not at all. He could be quite cutting. He famously took apart George Adamski's flying saucer photo.
Adamski, right, the contactee.
That's the one. Menzel said the saucer was just a chicken brooder with light bulbs for landing gear.
A chicken brooder? Seriously?
That was his take. And he blasted the media, enormously irresponsible hack writers exploiting people. He dismissed the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, too. Said it was basically Betty Hill's dreams and fantasies, maybe triggered by misidentifying a star, than getting locked in by hypnosis.
Hypnosis making it seem real to her.
That was his argument, that she couldn't tell dream from reality anymore. He even pointed to cults like Bo and Peep and, Heaven's Gate later on as proof that people will believe literally anything.
Wow. That's a really strong, dismissive stance from such a respected scientist. But was his own work totally solid? Did anyone push back on his methods?
And that's exactly where the plot thickens. Because, yes, people did push back. Hard. While he presented this image of meticulous scientific debunking, critics accused him of, well, twisting the facts. Stanton Friedman, a nuclear physicist turned UFO researcher, was particularly critical. He said Menzel's reasoning was so bad a college freshman physics major could pick it apart.
Ouch!
Yeah. Friedman claimed Menzel basically decided the answer, first natural explanation, and then cherry-picked or adjusted the facts to fit instead of the other way around.
So confirmation bias, essentially.
That's the accusation. Friedman also highlighted how Menzel's 1953 book, being translated into Russian, basically shut down serious scientific inquiry into UFOs for a generation in both the U.S. and the USSR.
A chilling effect.
A major one. And critics also pointed out things Menzel didn't mention, like Project Blue Book Special Report 14. That was a big government study, thousands of sightings, and over 600 of them were left officially unidentified by the professionals. Menzel just didn't talk about it much.
So ignoring inconvenient data, some sources called it an academic hit job, right? Like deliberate gatekeeping.
Exactly. The term academic gatekeeping comes up, suggesting he used his authority to shut down a field he disapproved of.
Okay, so was he just genuinely wrong in his analysis, maybe overconfident?
Yeah.
Or was there something else going on? Because this is where the story takes that really sharp turn into secrecy, into this alleged second life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you square the public debunker with this other Menzel, the one reportedly deep in intelligence circles, maybe even talking about, well, alien craft?
This is the core of the Menzel paradox, isn't it? Yeah. Friedman's research paints this picture of two Menzels. There's the public Menzel, famous astronomer, UFO skeptic #1. But then there's this other Menzel, a long-term consultant for intelligence agencies, specifically the NSA, the big signals intelligence agency, and dozens of private companies.
Doing what for them?
His specialty seems to have been radio wave propagation and, remember his childhood interest, cryptography, code break.
Okay, wait. So the UFO debunker is secretly working with the NSA and on cryptography. How deep did these connections actually run?
Oh, they seem to have run very deep. He wasn't just dabbling. Remember the cryptanalysis? He learned Japanese, taught it before WWII, headed a Naval Reserve communications unit focused on codes. He even admitted in his own autobiography to doing work for the CIA and writing a top-secret document about the NSA. Said he'd been involved with this activity for nearly 30 years.
30 years, wow.
And then you have the FBI files from the Black Vault. They show Menzel was under internal security investigation between 47 and 53, right when the UFO flap was starting.
Investigated for what?
Concerns about loyalty of government employees back in 49. Mentions contacts with other Harvard people. There were even allegations, which he denied, about communist ties in the 40s.
So the government was watching him closely.
Intensely. He was eventually cleared of everything in 51, but he called it the worst experience of his life, being under that kind of scrutiny from intelligence agencies. It's significant context.
And then there's Majestic 12, MJ 12. If any of that is real, it just blows the lid off everything we thought about Menzel. What's the alleged link?
Right. This is where Friedman's research goes into really controversial territory. He connects Menzel to the MJ-12 documents. These were supposedly leaked top-secret briefings, one allegedly prepared for Eisenhower in Leave 52.
And what did they say?
They claimed there was this secret committee, MJ-12, managing the UFO issue, aware of crashes like Roswell in 47, another one in 50, and recovery of, well, alien bodies. And the documents supposedly list Menzel as part of this group, alongside massive names like the first CIA director, Vannevar Bush.
Menzel himself on MJ-12.
That's the allegation. And within that alleged group, Menzel was supposedly arguing for an interstellar origin for the craft, not just, say, Mars.
An astronomer arguing for interstellar origin, secretly, while publicly debunking.
It's a stunning contradiction, if true. Friedman supports this by pointing to Menzel's travel records. Lots of government trips to D.C. and New Mexico between 47 and 49. The New Mexico trips often had a cover story involving the Sacramento Peak Observatory, which happens to be not that far from Roswell and White Sands. Coincidence? Maybe.
And his connections.
He was apparently close with other alleged MJ-12 members, like Detlev Bronk, Lloyd Berkner, And he considered Robert Oppenheimer a close friend who was definitely moving in those high-level, highly classified circles.
It really does force you to ask, what was the real story? This whole Menzel thing, the public skeptic, the secret intelligence work, the MJ-12 whispers, it really underscores that understanding the unknown isn't just about looking back. It's happening now.
Which brings us perfectly to Dr. Beatriz Villarroel and her work. Feels like history echoing, doesn't it? Tell us about her and this VASCO project. It really does feel connected, doesn't it? It's where historical mystery meets modern science. So, Dr. Villarroel, she's a top astrophysicist, Nordic Institute of Theoretical Physics in Stockholm, PhD in astronomy, master's in physics, very credible. And she's a key figure in the VASCO project. VASCO stands for Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations.
Vanishing and appearing sources, what are they looking for?
They're painstakingly comparing old astronomical photographic plates, like glass plates from decades ago, with modern sky surveys, looking for anything that was there and isn't now, or vice versa. Stars, objects, anything that changed.
And she's found something pretty startling, hasn't she? Especially considering the time period.
And is putting it mildly. Her latest paper points to finding multiple UAP's unidentified aerial phenomena that appear to be aligned, like in formation.
Aligned UAPs, where? When?
Several hundred kilometers up in Earth orbit, seen on these old plates. And here's the kicker. These plates are from before humans launched anything into space.
Before Sputnik, before anything man-made was up there.
Exactly. And what's even more intriguing is that the timing of these observations seems to coincide with that big Washington, D.C. UFO wave back in 1952.
1952, that's the year of the alleged MJ-12 briefing Menzel was supposedly part of.
It's a striking coincidence, isn't it? It makes you wonder what else might be hiding in that old astronomical data, things dismissed back then.
So how is Dr. Villarroel's research being received now? Is it like Menzel all over again with debunkers and believers lining up?
It's definitely stirring the pot, very much echoing those historical divisions. You look at places like Reddit, forums where this is discussed, and you see a real split. Some outlets like the Richard Dolan Show, commentators, they're incredibly excited, calling it maybe the most important scientific breakthrough in UFO history. They see huge implications.
Seeing it as potential proof.
Or at least very strong evidence that needs serious investigation. But then on the flip side, you've got the skeptics. People immediately jumping in, dismissing the findings as just artifacts on the old plates, imperfections, scratches.
The usual explanations for anomalies.
Right. Or accusing the researchers of sexing up ambiguous data. There are calls for, true experts in astrophotography to weigh in. It just shows how difficult it is, even today, with sophisticated methods, to get consensus on something that challenges the existing scientific framework.
So what does all this really mean for us? For you, listening, trying to figure things out in this flood of information, the whole idea of proof when it comes to unidentified stuff. It's slippery, isn't it? It was back then, it still is now. Think back to those early Air Force projects, like Project Sajian. They looked at thousands of cases, explained maybe 80%, but that left nearly 20% unknown, officially unknown.
Right. And Captain Ruppel, who ran Project Blue Book, he talked about the hassle over the word proof.
Yeah.
He basically said, even after you investigate thoroughly, sometimes you just can't positively identify something. It remains a something.
Yeah, and I remember reading about J. Allen Hynek, the astronomer who consulted for Blue Book. Back in '52, he warned against thinking we've discovered everything there is to discover. He reminded people that in 1800, scientists thought meteorites were impossible, just folklore. Shows how science evolves.
It really does. And that leads to this huge challenge today.
Yeah.
Information overload.
Yeah.
How do you process it all? Especially with conflicting experts, potential secrecy. Menzel's efforts back then, whether you think he was explaining or maybe obfuscating, it speaks to that deep human need to categorize, to make sense of things. We crave answers.
We do.
And then you have Dr. Villarroel's work now, using modern tools, looking back over a century of data, finding patterns maybe missed before. It's this rigorous scientific revisit of history, a powerful contrast.
Absolutely, and putting Menzel and Villarroel side by side, it's quite a comparison. Menzel represents this figure of huge scientific authority, shaping public opinion, maybe even gatekeeping, while living this whole other classified life, publicly explaining away the unexplained while perhaps privately dealing with it.
That potential contradiction is just fascinating.
Right. And Villarroel represents modern open science, using new methods on old data, potentially finding evidence of these aligned UAPs from before the space age.
Both stories, in their own way, highlight how much our perception and the knowledge we have available shapes what we consider explainable.
Yeah. It really feels like the quest to understand the unknown isn't just about looking at the evidence, it's also about looking very closely at who is presenting the evidence and how, and maybe why. So, wrapping this up, we've journeyed through the really complex story of Donald Menzel, scientific giant, public UFO debunker, but maybe also something else entirely in his hidden life tied to intelligence. And we've touched on Dr. Beatriz Villarroel's work, bringing fresh eyes and new science to potential historical evidence hidden in old star charts.
It shows the story is far from over.
Definitely not. I think this deep dive really shows that the final answer on things like this, it's almost never simple. Whether you lean towards Menzel's natural explanations or suspect some kind of cover-up or something else. The real takeaway seems to be the need for constant questioning. Questioning the phenomena, questioning our sources, questioning even the experts we trust.
Healthy skepticism applied broadly.
Exactly. So, the final thought for you to consider is, what else might be out there hiding in plain sight? What previously dismissed artifacts or coincidences, maybe in old data, maybe in old stories, are just waiting for a new perspective or a new tool to reveal what they really are?